Good morning, friends. I am Dr. Mayank Singhal, reader from the Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, Santosh, deemed to the University. Today I am going to talk about mandible fractures. I will talk in brief about various classification systems and about the management. So, as we all know that mandible is the strongest bone of the facial skeleton. It is the second commonest bone or the second bone to ossify in the facial skeleton. The most commonest bone to fracture, but the forces that are required to fracture this bone needs to be very high. That is approximately 40 to 80 kilograms per meters. It is a parabolic bone. Now, see, it is a parabolic bone. The angle of curvature in this bone is approximately 110 to 140 degrees. So, this bone plays a very important feature on the face. Now suppose if there is fracture of this bone, because it is parabolic in shape, some high forces are required, there are various processes, there are various muscles attached to it. So the management of that fracture is a bit difficult task. Now to know, based upon the anatomical location, there are various fractures that can happen into this bone. Like if you see, this is the condylar process. Now if there is a fracture line that is running like that, that will be called fracture of the mandibular condyle. If there is a fracture line that is running like that, it will be called fracture of the mandibular coronoid process. Now if we have a fracture line that is running from the third molar region to the angle of the mandible or to the lower border of the mandible, that will be called fracture of angle of the mandible. Now if we have a fracture line that is running between the mental foramen till the second molar tooth, it will be called fracture of body of the mandible. If we have a fracture line that is between the two mental foraminas, that will be called parasymphysis fracture. If we have a fracture line that is running from the symphysis, it will be called fracture of symphysis. Now again the same thing is here on the opposite side. Now the fractures of the mandible can be unilateral or bilateral. Means if it involves only one side, then it will be called unilateral. If it is involving both the sides, then it will be called bilateral. Like if the forces are, when there are some forces on the mandible to fracture it, there may be indirect or direct forces. So if there is a direct force to the parasymphysis region, it will lead to generation of indirect forces at the condylar region. So there will be bilateral fractures, or there will be fractures that is involving the two different sides by direct and indirect forces. Okay, so as I said that there are various muscles which are attached to the mandible. Now there are various muscles which plays role in the movement of the fracture part. Suppose there is a fracture line that does not move the fracture fragments much, then these types of fracture will be very easy to manage. Now suppose if there is a fracture line that is influenced by the action of the muscles and it moves the fractured fragments into various directions, then it will be difficult to manage these types of fractures. So if we go according to the literature, these types of fracture which are difficult to control or which are influenced by the movement of the muscles, they will be called unfavorable fractures. If we have a fracture line that is not influenced by the muscle movement, that will be called a favorable fracture. So the concept of favorable and unfavorable fracture is important in case of mandibular angle fracture. No, sometimes these terminologies may be very difficult for students to understand. Now students are most of the times confused between the favorable and unfavorable fracture. What is horizontal favorable, what is vertical favorable? So to make your concepts clear, I just want to say that if you have a knowledge about the biomechanics of the mandible, then these terminologies are very simple. In the angle of the mandible region, on the lateral side, on this side, there is a muscle that attaches it, is called masseter. On the medial side, there is a muscle that is medial pterygoid. Okay, so there is a sling that is formed by the action of these two muscles. or by the fusion of these two muscles at the lower portal region. So that sling is called pterygomesenteric sling. Pterygomesenteric sling, why? Pterygo means medial pterygoid, mesenteric means masseter muscle. So by these two muscles there is a string that formed, that is called pterygomesenteric sling. So the most important muscle to play role in favorability or unfavorability fracture out of these is medial pterygoid. Now suppose if you are seeing a mandible like that, okay, now this will be, if we are seeing the mandible like that, so it is horizontally favorable, unfavorable. Now if we are looking at like that, it will be vertically favorable, unfavorable. Okay, so let's first talk about horizontally favorable and unfavorable fractures. Now suppose if a fracture line runs in downward and forward direction, if a fracture line runs from superior to inferior border, in downward and forward direction. So in downward and forward direction, if a fracture line is running, then the unopposed action of the masseter and medial pterygoid muscle will be there, and it will tend to move the fracture segment. In upward direction. It can be moved in upward direction. So it will be called an unfavorable fracture line. Now suppose if we have a fracture line that is running from upward to backward in upward to downward in backward direction, obliquely backward, that can move the muscle. So it will be called unfavorable. And favorable when a fracture line is running from superior to inferior in forward direction. So if a fracture line is running from superior to inferior in forward direction, then the muscle fragment, the bone fragments will be locked together and they will not be able to move. Okay, so it will be a favorable fracture. If a fracture line is running in backward direction from superior to inferior, then the muscle can easily move the fracture segments, and it will be called an unfavorable fracture. Now if we talk about vertically favorable and unfavorable fractures, in vertically favorable and unfavorable fracture there are buccal and lingual cortical plate. Okay, so in the buccal and lingual cortical plate, if a fracture line is running from the buccal to the lingual cortical plate obliquely backwards, okay, from the buccal to the lingual cortical plate obliquely backwards, okay, so it will be locked. Okay, so the medial pterygoid will not be able to move this. It will be favorable. If the line is running from buccal to the lingual cortical plate in forward direction, then the segment can move medially. So if the segment can move medially, it will be called a unfavorable fracture. Okay, so the concept of favorable and unfavorable fracture is totally dependent upon the action of the muscles that are moving the fractured segments. Though this concept is not only limited to the fracture of angle of the mandible, the concept also involves the fracture in the symphysis and parasymphysis region, the fractures in the anterior region. Now if we see that in the anterior region, medially, in the anterior region, lingually, on the lingual side, there is a muscle that forms a diaphragm between the hyoid and mandible, that is called a mylohyoid. It is attached to the mylohyoid line. It forms a diaphragm, it forms the floor of the mouth. Okay, and there are two pairs of genial tubercles that are present, on which the geniohyoid and genioglossus muscles are attached. Okay, so the geniohyoid and mylohyoid muscle, if a fracture line is there at the mid symphysis region, so both the muscles on both the sides, they tend to balance the fracture line. Okay, so it prevents the movement and it's quite favorable. But if a fracture line is running obliquely in the parasymphysis region, and if it runs obliquely from the genial tubercles, then there will be an opposed action of the muscle, and the muscle tend to move the fragment in the backward and medial or lateral directions. Now suppose if there is bilateral parasymphysis fracture, then what will happen? The muscles that are attached to the genial tubercle, they tend to pull the segment in the backward direction. Okay, so these type of fractures become difficult to treat. Okay, so these are called unfavorable fractures. So now we talked about the classification system, we talked about the basic biomechanics of the mandible. Now while talking about the fractures or the type of fractures, we should also know that there are different type of fractures. Like we have simple fracture. Simple fracture means when there is a linear fracture in the mandible, that is involving condylar process, coronoid process or dentulous process, and that does not communicate with the external environment. Okay, a fracture line that does not communicate with the external environment is called simple fracture. If we talk about the other type, that is called compound fracture. Compound fracture means when the fracture line communicates with the external environment. Okay, if a fracture line communicates with the external environment, it will be called compound fracture. Like a fracture line that is involving tooth bearing area. Okay, if the line is involving tooth bearing area, it will be called compound fracture. Okay, the third type of fracture is comminuted fracture. Comminuted fracture means when there are more than two fractured segments at the same site. If we have more than two fracture fragments at the same site, it will be called comminuted. Then we have complex fracture. Complex fracture means a fracture line that involves, or a fracture pattern that involves the vital structures like the mental nerve, inferior alveolar nerve, it becomes, or the facial artery, then it becomes a complex fracture. Then we have a green stick fracture. In green stick fracture, for any complete fracture, both the cortices should be involved. But if a fracture line involves only the outer cortex and tends to bend the bony segment, then it will be called a green stick type of fracture. The green stick type of fracture is most commonly seen in children. Why it is most commonly seen in the children? Because in the children we have more of marrow content, we have less of cortical bone. Okay, so when there is less of cortical bone, it tends to bend the fractured bone. So it will be called a green stick fracture. So when we are talking about the fractures and the biomechanics, so these basic terminology should be clear. What is favorable, what is unfavorable, what is simple, what is compound, what are the different fracture sites. Okay, so now when we are managing the fractures in the mandible, so for managing any fracture in the maxillofacial region, the basic aim or the goal of the treatment is to restore the function, to restore the form, and to restore the occlusion. Okay, so this is the basic aim of the treatment. And how we achieve this aim, how we achieve these goals? The protocol of the treatment should be first reduction, then fixation, then immobilization. So for any fracture management, the basic steps of treatment are reduction, fixation, and immobilization. Okay, reduction can be of two types. It is open reduction or closed reduction. Reduction means when we bring fracture segments back into the normal anatomical position. Okay, so aligning or bringing the fracture segments into the normal anatomical position is called reduction. So if we are directly visualizing the fracture fragments while bringing them back into the normal position, it is called open reduction. Okay, open reduction means when you surgically open the fracture site and you visualize and you reduce it into the normal anatomical position. So it is called reduction. If you are not directly visualizing the fracture fragments and you are aligning the segments into the anatomical position, it is called close reduction. Okay, so in close reduction, we are not directly visualizing the fracture fragments, whereas in the open reduction, we are directly visualizing the fracture fragments. Then fixation. So while fixation, the devices that are applied for the fixation may be tooth bone or maybe bone bone. Okay, tooth bone or bone bone means if we are taking support from the tooth, then it will be called tooth bone. If we are taking support from the bone, then it will be called bone bone. Like in tooth bone, we have wiring techniques. We have direct wiring, we have IV eyelet wiring, we can do Gilmer's wiring, we can do various types of wirings. Then arch bars are the most preferred technique for reduction, for fixation, that is tooth bone. Now in the bone bone, we have various fixation devices, like we have mini plates, we have compression plates, and lag screws, K wires, and various other things. Now to know the concept of mini plate, we should know the concept of Shempi. Okay, there is a Shempi's principle of osteosynthesis. What it says? It says that while mastication or during function, there are various forces or there are various stresses that are produced in the mandible. Now, on the upper border, in the upper border, in the alveolus region, the tension forces are produced, and in the lower border, the compression forces are produced. Okay, so whenever we are treating a fractured mandible, we have to take into consideration the role of this tension zone and compression zone. Okay, so the Shempi's principle is that there are lines. There is a neutral zone that is at the lower part of the tension zone, the line that is running from the external oblique ridge coming forward to the mental foramen. Then the line divides into two. Then again at the mental foramen the line unites, and then it goes backward to the ascending border and the external oblique ridge. Okay, so if we put the hardware in the neutral zone or in the Shempi's area, then it tend to control the bending and flaring the mandible, or it tend to control the fracture segments into, or it tend to reduce the fracture segment into the normal anatomical position and maintaining the position. So this is basically the concept of Shempi that is applicable for semi-rigid and sometimes to the non-rigid fixation system. Then if we talk about the rigid fixation system like the compression plate, the compression plates are placed basically at the lower border of the mandible. We put it here near the lower border of the mandible. Okay, so these lines or these plates, they tend to compress the segments towards each other. Okay, what is the meaning of tension force? And if we talk about the meaning of tension force and compression forces, the tension stress or the tension force, it tend to move the segments away from each other. Okay, the tension stresses, they tend to move the segments away from each other, whereas the compressive forces, they tend to bring the segments or they compress the segment toward each other. Okay, so these two systems, the system mini plate system and the compression plate system, it is basically based upon these tensile and the compressive forces. If the segment are compressed towards each other by applying forces, we have to use compression plating system. Now in the cases where we want that the segments are reduced into the normal anatomical position and we have to maintain it without producing compression forces, then you have to use the mini plate system. After reduction and fixation comes the last step of management, that is called immobilization. So after reducing the fracture segments into normal position, after fixing them, we want that part to be immobilized for a period of time. For any, for management of any type of fracture, we need a biomechanical environment. Okay, what is the meaning of biomechanical environment? For bone formation, there is a biological environment, that is osteoblasts or presence of osteoblasts in this region is required, and mechanical environment means there is no movement of the fractured segments. So if the osteoblasts are present and no movement of the fracture segment is happening, then an exact biomechanical environment is produced for the healing of the fractures. But suppose if the fragments are continuously moving, then the osteoblasts will not come there and they will not lie the bone, and the no biomechanical environment will be produced. A favorable biomechanical environment will not be there, and it tend to fail your treatment plan. Okay, so for any fracture management, we should follow these three principles, that is reduction, fixation and immobilization. Okay, so the immobilization again is a very important part for management of fractures. So in this lecture we learned about basic classification system, that is based upon the site of fracture. Then we talked about the classification system, that is basically type of fracture, that is simple, compound, comminuted, complex. Then we talk about the favorable and unfavorable concept. We talked about the biomechanics of the mandible. In the biomechanics, we learned the action of various muscles, like action of medial pterygoid and mesenteric link, that is pterygomesenteric link. We learned about the action of geniohyoid, genioglossus, mylohyoid muscle, how these muscles tend to move the fractured segments, how these muscles tend to tend to just create a fracture line into favorable or unfavorable fracture. Then suppose if a fracture line is favorable or unfavorable, how we are going to manage it. Then we talked about the aims of the treatment. The aim of the treatment for any fracture is to restore the form, to restore the function, and to restore occlusion, and again aesthetics. Okay. Then we talked about the protocol, that is reduction, fixation, and immobilization. Okay, so it covers mandible fractures in brief, and thank you for your kind listening. Thank you.